Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So it is summertime, and with summertime comes, for my nieces at least, days at Theo's house. So now this week, my nieces, they are oftentimes my little practice buddies. I will teach them things in hopes that, I'm getting it right, and hopefully I can explain it correctly. So that way, if at least they can understand, hopefully you guys will understand as well. So in doing so, I asked them, what do you do when you're afraid? My niece Stephanie says, I close my eyes and hide under the bed. Penelope said she goes and finds her teddy bears and hides under her blanket. Then I asked, okay, what do y'all think the disciples did when they were afraid of the storm? Stephanie says, I think they prayed really, really hard, and then they held on to the boat even harder. To which I agree. Natty, the oldest, says, Theo, or they could have just used their iPhones to help track the storm. Then they would have been able to avoid it altogether. If only things were that simple. How many of us here today have had a terrible day? The alarm clock didn't go off. You got toothpaste on your shirt. Spilled coffee in your lap. You get stuck in traffic. It happens all the time, right? By the time you get to work, it's only 8 o'clock, and you've already feel like you've weathered a storm, right? Our readings today speak to us about weathering various storms, whether big or small. In today's first reading, we hear a small piece of the story of Job. So when I read this week, it made me interested. What exactly happened to Job? And me and Terry before church had a discussion, and it wasn't really fair. If you ask me, he kind of got the crummy end of the stick. He had everything. He had a wife, many kids. The Bible even describes how many animals he had, what his stock looked like, his livestock looked like. He had everything, and he lost it all. The Bible even goes as far as to describe him as blameless and upright, meaning he did nothing wrong. He was an upstanding citizen who did what he needed to do. Through no fault of his own, he was thrown into a storm. He loses everything, his family, his cattle. He loses everything, even his health. His faith was being tested. All of us here have had times in our lives when our faith was being tested. How did we react? Or not react, rather. Through it all, Job remained steadfast in his love and faith in the Lord. Eventually, at the very end of the story, everything turns around for him. Everything he lost, he got back tenfold. Job could have allowed all that he went through to change his heart. And instead, he remained faithful and loving to God. How do we measure up in this? In our times of hardship and when we're in the storm, are we remaining faithful to God, or are we questioning God? In the Gospel of Mark today, we are presented with a dramatic story of Jesus in the boat with his disciples when they encountered a violent storm that threatens to turn over the boat. Everyone in the boat is panicked, and there's Jesus just chilling, relaxed, like nothing's happening. And when he wakes up, his reaction is like, what are y'all talking about, guys? And immediately, now if only this worked for my nieces, immediately Jesus said, quiet, be still. And it worked. Now if only I could get that to work with my nieces. Jesus questions their faith. This is important information because it shows that even when Jesus is silent, even when Jesus doesn't appear to be doing anything, Jesus is always present in our lives. Jesus seems to be the silent divine power that is always present for us. Even when we may feel like we're alone, I have good news for everybody. We're not. All things come from God, even those storms that we're forced to go through. If you've ever felt alone, abandoned, like nobody cares, you're wrong. God cares. God's ways are not our ways. So if we even try to understand why God is doing the things that God is doing, or why are we going through X, Y, and Z? Why am I having problems at home? Why am I having problems at work? Why did I spill this coffee on my shirt? Brothers and sisters, if we really try and get into thinking about all the whys in life, we'll probably drive ourselves crazy. Paul in today's second reading reminds us that our love for Christ should be strong enough that it changes us, that we want to change. When we love Christ and call ourselves followers of Christ, how does that look? What does that look like? Well, brothers and sisters, we have everybody, every one of us here in our lives, everybody, we have people in our lives who are going through different storms. It could be a very big storm, somebody's passed away, or a very small storm, somebody's got a bad hair day. Regardless, somebody's going through a storm right now. Are you being the hands and heart of Christ to those around us? Can somebody look to you to be the calm in their storm? Albert Einstein famously said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same results. When we get mad, how do we react? When we get upset, when something doesn't go our way, how is it that we react? One practice that I've tried to emulate and try to put into my life is that somebody once told me that whenever you get upset, your first reaction that you come up with in your head, probably the wrong reaction. We should always try and take a pace. Stop when you're mad, stop, take a breath, and then think about it. It's not what you're going through that either makes us good or bad people, it's how we react. When something's thrown your way, do you freak out and get all mad and upset? That's probably, more of an indicator of what you can work on within yourself. Who do we have in our boat? So today's gospel made me think of everybody, the disciples being in the boat with Jesus. Who's in our boats with us? When we're going through something, who's there for us? And who are we there for? Are people able to look at us and feel that calm and peaceful spirit that Jesus had in him? What we can take from all of this is, first, don't panic. Second, remember that whether you are facing a literal storm or just a bad hair day, God is in control. And when things get rough, remember that Jesus is there with us. Life is full of challenges, but it's also filled with many, many reasons to smile. Sometimes the best way to handle a tough situation is just to laugh and smile. And finally, keep the faith. When things seem to be out of control, going ways that we don't like, remember that God has a plan. And like the disciples in the boat, we might not see it right away. But if we put our trust in God, God will always find a way to bring us peace. I pray this week that we all make it through our own storms. But we also that we also are able to bring peace to others around us. Amen.
Amen.